Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And today's topic is, what can you use a chain for in your Dungeons and Dragons 5e game? Yes, what can you use it for? Now, when I talk about what you can use chain for in your Dungeons and Dragons 5e game, I'm actually being very specific about the type of chain. So I'm assuming that it's some sort of steel or iron chain, it's a heavy chain of some kind like the picture indicates, and that you only have about 10 foot of chain available, because that's what's listed in the player's handbook for Dungeons and Dragons 5e. Now, of course, it changes everything. The longer the chain is, the more useful it becomes, but also the more weight you're carrying. Even a 10-foot piece of chain is going to be quite heavy. So what can you do with it? You can use a piece of chain as an improvised weapon. That's right, you can use it as an improvised weapon, swing it around above your head, and it will swing out to about 10 foot. So you have just extended your reach from 5 foot to 10 foot, provided your dungeon master will play ball with you. You can also use that chain for grappling, wrestling, or wrapping your enemy up, essentially tying them up in some way to make it difficult for them. Whether that is to stop their hands from moving around or to obstruct their breathing parts, you know what I mean. So yes, essentially it stops them moving. It won't necessarily restrain them, but you can certainly start the process of a grapple with a chain if you wanted to. Just got to have one hand free. Now, I'm assuming that if you're holding a chain, you're probably going to be holding that chain with two hands rather than just the one hand requirement for the grapple action in Dungeons and Dragons 5e. You can take a chain and connect a series of manacles or handcuffs together when you're moving a group of prisoners. So you've captured your enemies and you need to move them from one place to another. And how do you do that? Well, you could use a rope, but ropes can break and snap and wear and tear, and if they're rubbing against metal, that tends to happen. So linking the manacles together with a chain might be slightly more sensible. You can wrap that chain around your arm and help protect yourself from injury. Now, there's a few movies that this has been sort of demonstrated in. I don't know that it's hugely practical, but it may present you with a small amount of extra protection, particularly if you're unarmed and you're dealing with somebody who has a blade or some other weapon that usually can slice. As long as the chain is wrapped around in a pretty tight manner, you should be able to get some sort of protection on your arm. You can use a chain in conjunction with a padlock to lock a gate or some sort of door if there's some way of linking it through, and that will stop people being able to move through it. So if you need to escape or you need to secure a location, use your chain and your padlock, which means you need to have a padlock as well. Then you can now secure it so that they can't get through. You can attach a chain to a 10-foot pole. Now, the reason for using a 10-foot pole is often for prodding and poking an area in front of you to try and find traps and hazards and problems as you are moving through your dungeon. But if you attach a 10-foot section of chain to it, you can now swing that out and extend the reach of your 10-foot pole to almost 20 foot. I would say probably going to be a little bit less than that. And then you can drag the chain across the ground to try and trigger any traps or detect any problems that are further ahead of you, particularly if you're concerned that you might get scorched by something that is covering a large area in terms of the trap. So another idea if you're interested. You can use a very large chain as a fishing weight when you're trying to catch, say, like a shark or a really big fish or some sort of horrible creature or monster or something like that, so that they don't wind up sort of escaping. You've got to have lunch. Dinner is always necessary. You can connect a chain to a rope. Do this when a rope might be rubbing against a sharp surface and might get cut through. That sharp surface or edge rubbing against something might cut through your rope, but it won't cut through a chain, which is a good reason why you might use that. I've done this at home when I'm using my boxing bag. It's been really, really useful to stop the ropes getting cut through. You can connect a chain to a rope or string line that is situated around your campsite, and it will jingle like a charm and act as an alarm or a sound device, so that when somebody is trying to sneak up on you and you're sleeping, that they can't, and it will be activated and make some noise and hopefully wake up the people in the party so that they can get themselves into a combat-ready situation. Now, a small section of chain like 10 foot is probably capable of repairing damage to a larger, longer chain for, say, a drawbridge or a suspension platform or some stocks for a short time. It might not necessarily be useful for a long period of time, because a lot of those sorts of pieces of equipment, such as a drawbridge, a suspension platform, and not so much the stocks, they require a chain that's quite strong. And so your chain may not be heavy enough to deal with the weight for a long period of time. But if you need to cross that area, and repairing the chain might be possible. Breaking the chain is always a problem, so you've got to figure out how you're going to cut the chain or cut one of the links, and then of course reconnecting them or separating the chain link is going to be your biggest problem. And then of course, provided you have a cantrip like mending and you haven't removed any material, you can then rejoin that link, because the damage to the link on the chain should be small enough that something like a cantrip like mending should be able to reconnect it if you need it to do so, which of course you would if you're trying to reconnect a chain that's broken. You can use a section of chain as an improvised knuckle duster. You wrap it around your fist and then punch them in the head and watch them go down. So yes, I would do that. And as we know, Ghost Rider has taken quite a lot of ideas from the chain. I mean, it's one of his main weapons. It's not just his fiery outlook and his amazing charisma. It is definitely, the chain does a lot of work for him as well. You can take that chain and use it to threaten a very difficult non-player character or NPC. Yeah, we know the ones that you're talking about, right? That's the one the Dungeon Master created that is going to really cause you a lot of trouble. You give it a shake, give it a bit of a jingle, and hopefully they are scared off. You might have to do a little bit of other stuff with it, but it's a good start. You can use that chain as heavy metal bling for your poor adventurer, or the kind of adventurer who likes to scare people with the kinds of things they are wearing around their neck or around their body. You can use a section of chain to secure a block and tackle for lifting very heavy loads. Now, I'm talking about a load that is much heavier than what a hemp rope or a silk rope could support, even if you were to wet them down. So another way you can use your heavy chain. Yes, you're in the dungeon and you come across a rust monster. Pull out your heavy chain and toss it to the rust monster or rust monsters, and lure it or decoy it so you can run away and save your armor and weapons from being corroded and damaged. Now, Indiana Jones used basically a bag of sand. You can use, if you need a really heavy weight, you could use a section of chain as a counterweight or pressure to be placed on a pad for a trap or something that's holding something that you think that might have a pressure plate involved. So another way you can use your chain if you need to. In a pinch, you can take that chain. Now, normally you would use like a stone or a ball bearing, but in this case, maybe you need to make a really loud noise that makes a lot of jingly bits and pieces in it, and you want to draw a lot of attention to a location. So you take your heavy chain, you wrap it up, and you hurl it over the wall or wherever you need it to go, throw it away from you. It makes a loud noise, distracts your enemy so they go in that direction, or guards, and then you can sneak past them or get past them without too much trouble. Bingo! So lots of different ways you can use the chain. Now, if you found this video helpful, excellent. I'm hoping you have been able to pull out some of the ideas from here in terms of how you could use a chain in your game. Do remember that it's probably sensible to have a bag of holding. Chains are heavy, And if you have a dungeon master who doesn't use encumbrance, that's great, but if they do, it could cause you a whole bunch of trouble because chains are heavy. Now, I have a series of videos on Dungeons and Dragons adventuring gear. Now, if you're interested in that sort of topic, you can go and check out that playlist. If you're not interested in that sort of stuff, I have hundreds of videos for players and dungeon masters. You're welcome to go and check those out. If you want to support the channel so I keep doing videos like this, then you can check me out on Patreon, where you get access to the unlisted live streams, additional content, and I also do priority on all of my patrons. Anything they request, I do priority on what they want. I have a merchandise shelf underneath all of my videos if you want some swaggy stuff. I also have affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon. And make sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. Very important. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.